You just press play on the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. We're here to entertain, educate, and engage. And in case you didn't know, you only live once. But if you do it right, once is enough. Don't waste it. All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Last Breath Huntcast, home of the Huntroversy. Want to get this out of the way first. This podcast is presented by Badlands Gear. You can check those guys out at badlandsgear.com. They make a lot of sweet apparel, hunting gear, camouflage specifically for hunters out west. And as of recently, they've been diving into the whitetail market. So big shout out to Badlands. Very excited, very happy, very proud to be wearing their camo and for them to be supporting our podcast. So we'll have some really nice discount codes coming down the pipeline in the very near future for you guys to take advantage of that. This podcast is also brought to you by Underwarmer, which is a heated next to skin layer bodysuit. It's an insulative layer with air activated technology that heats up and provides you with up to 12 hours of sustained warmth while you're coyote hunting, shed hunting, ice fishing, anything out in the cold, you name it, it'll make you warm. I'm here with Garrett today. Hello.
Oh, hello. And I want to touch base on both of those companies that make this podcast possible. With Badlands Gear, specifically right now, it is like -2 degrees with a -20 degree wind chill. The Midwest winter has been brutal and harsh, and the Badlands Pyre suit is the best thing that we own to cut the chill. I mean, you combine the Pyre suit with the Underwarmer base layer, and it's very, very reasonably comfortable
all day
to go hunting. Yeah, You've been ice fishing, you've been coyote hunting with that specific combo in these sub-zero temperatures and haven't had any issues. So just to highlight Badlands, I just want to say that if it's got that skull, that red skull and horns, I mean, lifetime warranty. We've had fans. I myself have personally cashed in on that warranty. They back the product, not the purchase, so it doesn't matter who buys it. It's just a matter who sends it in.
Yeah, you could get it at a yard sale for all they care, and as long as it's got the red bull skull on it, it's ready to go for
covered.
life.
So that's a huge value-added thing when it comes to investing in camo. And again, with Underwarmer, the inverse to that is how economical these base layers are. You're talking about a compression system that you can purchase for $10 to $15 depending on the size, and it's really going to make a difference, especially if you're going out on an ice fishing trip where you know it's going to be cold for a couple days, or you got a coyote tournament coming up. Like, that small investment could make the difference between you staying on the ice or out in the snow to get it done. Well, without any further ado, we have so much more to tell you about 2021. I mean, we're going to just have some really great things coming out. But right now, this is going to be episode 1 of a multi-part series on predator hunting. There's no better time. The coyotes are beginning to mate and pair up. There's a lot of coyote tournaments going on. And we thought, what better way for guys to learn how to kill more coyotes, to be better predator hunters, and get some of the experts on. Now, these guys that we're calling and questioning are people recommended by our fans and followers. We've made multiple posts in the inner circle. We had a couple guys reach out to us on social media directly. And this afternoon, what we're going to do is we're going to record a podcast with Chris Kreiner, and he hails from Michigan. He is an absolute coyote killing machine. Does a lot of night hunting. Something we're foreign to.
Yep.
And we're going to get him on the horn, pick his brain, and see if he can't share some secrets.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And like Garrett said, there was just a need. We felt like when we scoured the internet for coyote information, there's not a ton of coyote podcasts being presented. There's not a ton of high-quality coyote, how to kill a coyote video. And we thought we would just dive into 5 experts, whether they be locally or out of state. Some are out west, some are over out east, some are in the north woods that kill triple digits, quadruple digits of coyotes every year. Some of our guys will kill 25 or 30 coyotes in a weekend.
Correct.
So that's absolutely incredible. And so we're going to pick their brain using a prescribed list of questions, see if there's any commonalities. And we can go ahead and give Chris a call. This is our first guest, and pretty excited to talk to him, see what he has to say.
All right.
Hello, this is Chris.
First ring, Johnny on the spot, Chris. Garrett, hello. Grant is also on the other end of the line. We're happy to have you on.
Hi, Grant. Hey, Garrett. Happy to be here.
We're pretty excited to talk to you, man. I know that Garrett did the first podcast on his own, but coyotes are my favorite animal to hunt, and judging by all the pictures that he's shown me of some of your coyote hunts, you are on a whole nother level than a lot of people, and we were really excited to get to talk to you. So thanks again for carving out some time of your day to make a little bit of time to talk coyote hunting with us. We really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. Anytime I can talk coyote hunting or hunting in general is always a good time.
So, small world. A gentleman by the name of Brandon Connor has made Grant and I both some ice rods, and turns out you and him are about a hop, skip, and a stone throw away. Is that a fact?
Yeah. He's only probably about 15 minutes away from me. Him and I have done some steelhead fishing together back in the day, and we talk deer hunting once in a while, and then occasionally we'll talk a little bit of coyote hunting. We still have not even made it out in the field yet together. We've talked about it a couple of times, but he's pretty close guy around here. We definitely in waterfowl stuff. He let me borrow some decoys a few years ago, and I ended up buying some decoys off of him so I could get into the waterfowl stuff. And then the coyote hunting really took off here in Michigan, and that waterfowl went out the back door.
Well, and rightfully so. I mean, I am not a big waterfowl hunter, and given, like I said, the success that you have had predator hunting, it would be pretty hard to pull me away from that. So, without further ado, Chris, go ahead and rattle off your 3-minute commercial. You have some pretty amazing accolades that I think is very noteworthy. So the mic is yours.
All right. Well, actually, I'm going to expand on what we talked about the other day. My coyote hunting started about 25 years ago. Ed Seary and Randy Anderson were some of my early mentors, kind of to date my age, I guess you'd say, through VHS tapes, tossing them in the player. And we're up north at deer camp, and we started watching these coyote hunts. And we thought, man, that looks pretty easy, no problem. So my brother and I, we ordered a call, and, we went out and gave it a shot for ourselves. 30 seconds into our very first hunt, call in a coyote, 150 yards, shoot it, drop it right there. And it's like, man, it is just like the movies. This is easy. This is great hunting. And then we go, and I think we went another 12 sets before we called in another coyote, so the first set was definitely deceiving. But and then fast forward, I think we did a lot of day hunting for about 3 or 4 years, and then kind of got out of it a little bit. And then fast forward to 2008, I started up a little show called Great Outdoor Pursuits. It was mainly, the main purpose was just online, share some videos, share some photos, stuff like that. Eventually it grew into a local TV program, and we aired on some local channels in Lansing and Grand Rapids. I'm from mid-Michigan. And then that just, it kept, getting bigger and bigger. But then something else in my life changed, a life-changing event. I had my first daughter in 2015, and my second daughter coming shortly after 2017. So right about the end of 2015, it was just one of those things. It's like, wait, I mean, you guys know how much work is involved into editing, hosting, everything that goes into a program, and the time that it takes away from family. You work a full-time job, you come and you try to make something out of this, and it takes away time from family. And I was taking way too much time away from family, and there's literally no money in it either. So I can't take away and put away my full-time job to try to make this a living or a passion. So Great Outdoor Pursuits, it's still, I have a website and a Facebook page, but that's kind of put on the back burner. And I joined up with a group of predator hunters. In December 2016, Michigan passed the center fire at night for predator hunters, and where you can use a center fire rifle from .269 diameter on down for bullet diameter. And so once that started, I started meeting up with some local hunters here. We developed a small team called Dusk to Dawn Outdoors. And, it's just a group of, I think there's 5 of us, so it's not a real big group of guys, but we get together every once in a while and we'll go out and do some coyote hunting and have a great time, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of all that, you have been decorated by the state of Michigan. You work with some pretty cool companies, and you're specifically filling a really unique niche with your nighttime predator photos.
Yep, I was. I got invited to do a seminar for the Michigan Trapping and Predator Calling Association up in Stanton, Michigan, this last fall, and they also at the end of they're trying to get more predator hunters or predator callers into the association. And so they invited me up to, do a seminar, talk with the board, and, see how we can involve more predator callers. And little did I know, they really didn't want me to talk to the board. They were awarding me with the 2020 Predator Caller of the Year award from the Michigan Predator or Trapping and Predator Calling Association. So it was a huge honor to be able to represent, the state of Michigan. I mean, there's a lot of great predator callers throughout the state, and to have that honor was pretty darn sweet. And then going into my photography, that is where I did find a niche in the nighttime predator hunting, and it allowed me to start getting into the door with several companies. Actually, Predator Hunter Outdoors in Night Snipe Hunting Lights is kind of where it started. It was January 2017. I started taking some photos of stuff and sent it to them, and they were really interested in working with me. And then from there, it just developed and snowballed to, Pulsar optics, thermal and night vision optics, and then Icotech game calls, and and it's constantly growing. And I can't obviously always trying to change up my shots, change up and excel in my photography. And honestly, there's a lot of great photographers out there that do the same thing. And thankfully, and Pulsar actually brings a lot of them on board because they're, they look for that type of stuff for content. So it's been great to be able to work with all these awesome companies.
I'd say absolutely, and it's all well deserved. So we've touched on it before, but again, it sounds like you do a majority of your predator hunting in Michigan, that upper Midwest area, correct?
Correct. Yep. I'm in, like I said, mid-Michigan, between Lansing and Grand Rapids. I pretty much try to stay within half an hour of home. I usually don't like to travel too far because my whole thought is, why travel for coyotes when they're here? This is so
right.
Granted, you could probably, if I drove an hour away, I do get phone calls from individuals quite often asking me to come and hunt their property. Problem is, it's, hour and a half, 2 hours away, and I just can't effectively hunt that property because coyotes are like deer. Some nights they move absolutely, like crazy. And I mean, there's times where you essentially don't even have to turn on a collar. They're right there. But then there's other times where you really have to work for them, or they're not interested at all. So to drive 2 hours for, a single stand, it just isn't worth the effort. I'll try to hook them up with somebody who is local, who, I've developed a lot of relationships throughout the state over the years, and I try to, if there is somebody I can point that direction, I'll definitely send them there.
Right now. So the other thing is you hunt coyotes year round. I mean, obviously it's nice to hunt them when it's cool or comfortable, but you hunt them in the summer, you hunt them in the spring, in the fall, in the winter. I mean, you hunt them year round.
Yeah. And that's it really is, a nice thing to be able to do. Like I said, having a family life and having young kids who are now 5 and 3, being gone during the daylight hours is hard. I'll still get out and do some deer hunting now and then, but as soon as the sun goes down and they're going to bed, hey, I mean, you guys, I believe both of you are married also, and so when you're married, just having to leave the wife at home at night, it's a little easier than leaving her during the day sometimes. Yep. So getting out at night and being able to do that, and like you say, do it year round, really it makes it a good time. And we can just, I mean, all my buddies, they can get out, at night too, and we just spend a lot of time, usually 3 times a week. If possible, we'll get out there and see what's happening. But right now, I mean, we're talking tonight it's supposed to get down to, no, I think it's tomorrow night. It's supposed to get down to like -7 or something like that, or -4. And I don't think you guys are much different temperature wise than we are in mid-Michigan.
No, it is bitter here. So speaking of time of day, you really key on night hunting. I mean, when do you usually go out to start the hunt? Is it right at sunset, or is there kind of a certain time that you choose?
No, it pretty much is right. Like as soon as it's dark enough. So, the most commonly asked question I get is, how do you set up in a field or a certain stand? And it surprises a lot of people when I tell them I stand right out in the middle of a wide open field. I don't get into a fence row. I don't get into a wood line or into any cover. And honestly, when I'm looking for properties to knock on the door and try to get permission to hunt a property, I look to see if there's wide open fields. It's when a coyote when it's dark out, a coyote feels like it's undercover. So it'll walk through a field without a second thought. And so yeah, starting right as soon as it's dark enough to where I know they can't see me till same with sunrise. Just before it starts getting bright out. And then you can stand anywhere you want.
All right, now let's get into one of my favorite parts of these series is the firearm, like your weapon system. You want to break down, your go-to gun from the caliber, as a bolt or auto loader to the optic. I mean, as much as you want to share with us.
All right. Yeah. So my primary weapon is an AR-15 in 223, and I have a Pulsar trail mounted to it. Actually, I just sold the trail. I'm waiting for my new trail, should be showing up here soon. And the new trail has got what's called the LRF model, which is a laser rangefinder. That's the next hardest thing to judge at night is distance. So having that rangefinder is going to be a huge benefit for me. But so 223 is my go-to round. It's a light rifle. It mounts up to the tripod easy, and as long as you're using the right bullets, it's perfectly effective for coyotes and even your smaller predators such as fox. I reload all of my own ammo also, and in being able to do that really allows me to pinpoint and select the bullet that I want to use based on how it handles when it hits an animal. If I hit a coyote in the shoulder, it's pretty much dropping every single time with this bullet. So it worked really well.
And now, if memory serves me right, it's a 55 grain Sierra bullet, correct?
Nope. This one's a 55 grain Nosler Varmageddon.
Oh, yes. Yep.
So,
yep.
And anybody that's followed me online for very long knows that I preach up Varmageddons like crazy. And the thing is, they're such a hard bullet to find right now. I mean, well, anything's hard to find.
Yeah.
But I mean, even when bullets were relatively easy to find, the Varmageddon was very hard to find still, that bullet. It took me, I also do a little bit of content stuff for Nosler, and it took me close to a year before I was able to get my hands on some 90 grain Varmageddons for my 6.5 Creedmoor. And so, but once I did, I didn't waste a lot of time, and I got them into the field and, tested them out on some coyotes, and those coyotes don't even twitch when getting hit with that Creedmoor with a 90 grain bullet. And the accuracy, the pluses of reloading your own ammo is the accuracy that you can get out of them. And that Creedmoor is just an absolute tack driver. I know there's a lot of people, they call them the bleed more, and the Creedmoor's got every name in the book, I guess you could say, because there's some guys that don't buy into the hype, and but the Creedmoor is a very versatile round. So
hey, buddy, you're talking to a guy that owns one myself, so I love the round.
Yeah, it works phenomenal. So, and it works really good on predators too. I did end up, it was a 3-year quest. I called in a gray fox finally, and unfortunately I was using the Creedmoor that night.
Oh no.
And, oh yeah. And it wasn't, thankfully, and actually my taxidermist buddy, Cody Godwin, was in the field with me when we called in a pair of gray fox, and I shot mine with the Creedmoor, was able to get the collar going again. Had the collar, running rabbit distress, and second gray fox just still kept on coming in. So Cody was able to shoot his first nighttime predator, and it ended up being a gray fox, which is super rare here in Michigan. You don't see them very often. But yeah, the Creedmoor made a little bit of a mess out of that, but Cody, being my taxidermist, he says all the parts are there. He says, I'll be able to still make a sweet mount out of it for you. So
you're saying you had a Patches of Houlihan fox, huh?
Yeah, it was a little bit. But yeah, it's gonna be, it was gorgeous gray fox. I do wish for anything that I was using, even my 22-250 would not have done as much damage to it that night. But those are my go-tos, when there's so many people asking calibers for coyotes, your 223, your 22-250, 6.5 Creedmoor. It's a little big for fox, but it'll do the job. I actually shot a red fox the week prior to that, and it was facing dead onto me, and it did not exit, and it wasn't. So I think it just depends on how much body that bullet's able to travel through, so it just loses all that energy, it fragments without if blowing up on the other side, for example. If it's a broadside shot, that Creedmoor is just gonna make a mess on the opposite side. But no, it's a lot of great calibers out there.
Sure. How about your calls? That was my most interesting question that I was going to ask you when Garrett told me you lined this conversation up, Chris. Do you use electronic calls? Can you use those in Michigan, or are you strictly with hand calls and mouth calls?
What you can do with mouth calls and hand calls is you can be versatile. And right now the predator hunting is such a booming thing right now. There's guys getting into it like crazy. I help administer, or I moderate a page called Michigan Coyote Hunting Outdoors. And that page is, we're getting, 50 requests a day for people to join that page. It's just booming right now. And every year, right at the end of deer season, there's a huge boom. So if you're using hand calls and mouth calls, then it gives you that versatility of maybe giving the coyotes something that they're not used to hearing. Primarily, I'm what a lot of guys call a button pusher, just because it's convenient. When you're blowing on a rabbit distress call, you get winded pretty quick. So being able to just turn on electronic collar and let it do its thing saves a lot of wind.
And it's really hard to scan the field when you're blowing on a call.
It can be done, but you're right. It is difficult. Especially when I'm running my electronic collar, I'll have rabbit distress running for, anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 minutes. So, and I'll leave it running continuous. So, if you're blowing, you're not going to have near that much lungs capacity to blow on a rabbit distress call for, maybe I've got weak lungs, so maybe, but 7 to 10 minutes on a mouth distress.
That's a marathon.
Distress. Oh gosh, it's not going to be
world,
easy.
Yeah.
So, but so being able, and then as far as using your hand like a howler, it's one of those things. As beginners are getting into the sport, I actually don't even recommend that they use many vocals at all. You don't want to be sending that wrong message to that coyote that might be just kind of calm natured. He might be just kind of chilling out, maybe looking for some buddies to hang out with, and you throw out a challenge howl and he goes, well, I'm going to turn around. I'm going to go the other way. He goes, I don't want anything to do with what's going on over there.
Sure.
But in the, you understanding what they do say back to you. Let's say you throw out a lone howl or an invitational howl and they come back with a challenge howl. You need to be able to recognize that. And I mentioned this to Garrett the other day, is with these call makers now, they name their sounds in a fashion that maybe you could recognize, like, okay, this call maker made this as an aggressive name, aggressive sound, such as pissed coyote, or, they'll say right on there, coyote challenge. Listen to your electronic caller, see what those coyotes on that electronic caller are saying, and be able to use that in the field. When those coyotes start talking back to you, you can kind of start grasping what their emotion is back to you. So then you know how to possibly respond back to them. And so that's been very helpful for me getting to the point where I'm at today.
Sure. So on your typical coyote setup, Chris, when you're hitting your first spot of the evening, what call are you going to go to first? I know that given the time of the year, your answer could vary, but what does that look like for you?
Almost generally, I mean, I've been starting to mix it up with a little bit more. Like as soon as I step in the field, I might start right off with like a distress. But as a general rule, I would go into a field and I'd start off with like a lone howl or an invitational howl. Some non-aggressive, just letting other coyotes in the area know that I'm around. And sometimes, within 2 to 3 minutes, they might vocalize back to you. So then you can go, okay, there are coyotes here. And then when they vocalize back to me, I'll give it another couple minutes, and I'll usually throw on like a rabbit distress. Baby cottontail, like high pitched distress seems to really work well, but even your regular, adult cottontail distress works well too. And, a lot of people, they try to shy away from the rabbit distress because, let's face it, everybody is using rabbit distress. But in the same token, the way I look at it is the rabbit is the most available prey animal out in the field to these predators. So they are used to hearing a rabbit in distress probably quite often. So I never use that as a consideration when I'm out in the field. I will use the most available prey to them as, my distress sound.
So we actually have a customer question that came in, and it involves rabbit distress, but specifically jackrabbit distress. A lot of your calls today now will have cottontail, baby cottontail, but then they'll have several jackrabbit distress calls that are similar. So his question was, since there's no jackrabbits in the Midwest, should we just not even look at those, or is that something we should try if the cottontail doesn't work?
Absolutely try it. Actually, to tell you the truth, the very first coyote I ever killed 25 years ago, we couldn't find a cottontail distress mouth call. So it was an Ed Seary jackrabbit distress mouth call that my brother was actually blowing on when this coyote came running in. So anything of distress, your deer, your rabbit, it doesn't really matter. It's that high pitched squealing that's drawing the attention. And I definitely would not be afraid to throw jackrabbit out in the Midwest.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for that. So we covered kind of like your basis on the calls that you use and how you call them, but I did want to cover some of the gear, specifically like what you wear out in the field, and then just give us a brief overview of the tripod setup that you're using.
So since I'm hunting at night, during the winter, I'll usually throw on some camo just because that's what my heaviest gear is camo. But during the summer, I'll go out in blue jeans and a t-shirt. These coyotes, they got great eyesight at night, but not so great that they're going to pick you out standing in the middle of a field. They rely more on the sound and the smells at night. So when you are running your distress call, they're going to try to circle downwind, and that's about what they're going to try to do to find out. They're going to use that to find out where the animal's at and then stalk it from there. Obviously, once it gets downwind to your collar, the only thing it's going to smell is your scent that your hands left on the collar. And then brings up the next point is a lot of people miss, I would say, what's a good word for it? They don't give the nose of a canine enough credit. So, as deer hunters, you're able to fool a deer's nose with ozonics and everything like that, washing your clothes in scentless soap, taking a scentless shower. But, a coyote there's a reason why they use canines for search dogs and for avalanches and for, criminals and everything like that, is because a dog's nose you just can't fool. And a coyote is the same way. if your wind is blowing anywhere remotely close to the wood lot where you're thinking these coyotes are coming from, you got to avoid it and hunt a different spot. Wait till the wind is right, because all you're going to do is educate those coyotes.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that we have heard unanimously throughout this series is that guys just like you're saying, people don't realize how good a coyote's nose is, and it's not even close to like comparable of a deer. I mean, we've had multiple guys share stories about they've watched coyotes at 600 or 700 yards away, that they'll be downwind, and they're like, "There's no way, like he'll come in a little bit closer for a shot." And they're downwind, and it's like a light switch. As soon as they hit downwind, 600 and 700 yards away, those coyotes turn around and bust, which is it's crazy. You think about deer hunting. If I have a deer that's 600 yards, which it's hard to see 600 yards here in Illinois, same thing with Michigan, but like right. I'm not worried about that deer smelling me at that far. Maybe 200 yards, maybe, but that not that far.
Well, and it's crazy, and the other thing about hunting at night is, sometimes you flat out have a dead calm night, or, the wind is just constantly swirling. So you just don't know what's going to happen. And we actually had a night where the wind was right, but the thermals carried our scent down a hill. And we had this pair of coyotes working across the field, and we're like, well, we'll just let them keep coming. I mean, they're 125 yards away. They're easily within range.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they both just freaking a 180, and they're booking it. I mean, just in the blink of an eye. So our thermals were getting carried down this hill. Those coyotes caught that scent, even though the wind direction, because we were up on a hill, the wind direction felt good, but the thermals completely busted us. So
now I've got another question about night hunting, Chris. Do you care to hunt more so when there's a big moon or when there's no moon? Which one do you prefer?
I prefer no moon. A new moon where it's completely pitch black out is the most ideal and gives you the most cover when you're standing out in the middle of the field. You get a full moon, you can still go out and hunt, but especially with the snow on the ground,
oh yeah,
you better find some cover, because they will see you. There's just no doubt about it. So definitely a new moon is the best. Even right now with the snow on the ground, even with a new moon, you get the ambient light and the light pollution from any local towns or cities. It still makes it really bright out there, and can make it a little bit difficult for you. But I pretty much tell guys that come out in the field with me, it's like, just be prepared to shoot 200 yards.
Right.
Right. That's what it might end up being.
Well, that's why you got a gun that can do it,
Absolutely. And that's what, another commonly asked question is, what is a good range to zero your rifle at? And I pretty much tell everybody 200 yards. I'll zero it for 200. And like I said, range at night is hard to determine. You kind of get used to it. And, but if it's 210 yards, if it's 150 yards, it doesn't matter. If you're shooting for center mass, it's your bullet's going to be right there, within a couple of inches. Even though you got a little bit of rise and fall there, it's going to be right there where it needs to be, out to 225 yards if it does happen to be a little bit past. So, and then I kind of got a little bit off subject and started talking about wind, but I'll go into my tripod here real quick.
Yeah.
So I use. Night Snipe makes a tripod system. They got the Tournament Hunter and the Elite Hunter series. And the tripod just does, it's a little bit more to carry out in the field, but you're not going to get a bipod that's going to give you the stability that the tripod does. And being able to mount your rifle to these tripods, just being able to mount it and pretty much be hands-free. You can be sitting there scanning, not have to hold onto your rifle, not have to worry about your rifle. These tripod systems do it. So the Tournament Hunter is a lighter weight. It's smaller diameter legs, but it's got great stability and it's super light, especially if you're carrying like a chair into the woods. Like I did a bobcat hunt this winter, and carrying that in the woods with a little chair was no hassle at all. The Elite Hunter is a rock solid tripod, much larger diameter legs, but in the same token, with the larger diameter, it's a little bit heavier, a little bulkier. So couple different systems, but they both work really well for supporting your rifle.
Right. I mean, and that's one thing that we started using the Bog Death Grip a little bit last year, and then I pieced together something similar to like the Elite Hunter Tournament Hunter, where it's a little bit lighter weight setup, a little bit more forgiving to carry around. And I'll tell you this, after we use those tripods with the ball heads, it's hard to go back. I mean, it is really nice, like you said, to be hands-free, but just also to have that stability for your rifle.
And the thing is it's not just for predator hunting. You know, you can put, for example, when I'm running a bolt gun on either tripod, I have the pig saddle. Well, with the pig saddle, you can put your crossbow, you can put your deer rifle in there if you're going to be a blind hunter. You know, I was hunting black bear from the blind this fall, and I had my 270 mounted in the pig saddle on my tripod. I mean, the rifle's pointed right at the bait. I mean, hands free until the bear walks in. So it makes everything so much easier. And then, like you said, the precision shooting that a tripod will allow you to do is amazing.
And that's another thing, I guess, that I just thought of is the lack of movement. Because like you said, in daylight hunting scenarios, and even for coyotes or other species, your gun is you set it up so pretty much you just have to lean into the gun. And so you don't have to pick it up and put it on a window. You don't have to set it out in front of you. I mean, you just reach up and cradle your gun, and then more times than not, it's pointed in the right direction. You just got to move it a little way left, right, or up or down, and then you're on target.
Unless you're bobcat hunting.
Right.
Let's just say I may have, a trophy tree or two from this winter.
Oh yeah.
When you got to lean around a tree because the bobcat stops behind it, the tree always wins.
Yep. So one other thing that we didn't talk about, but that I wanted to talk to you about was specifically your scanner. So when you're night hunting, and again, it's new to us with night hunting, it's not just the rifle scope, the thermal scope. A lot of times you'll have a scanner, which is used to kind of aid in finding the predator. And that's how you kind of run it, right? A monocular or a binocular scanner?
Yeah. So 4 years ago when I started all of this, I started with lights, with red lights, red light bulb on my head or headlamp, and then a red light on my gun. And you would just sit there and you'd scan the field. The problem is, a lot of guys don't understand, is even though the color red is not as obvious to a coyote's eyes, the movement still is. They're still seeing a sudden flash in their direction if you're moving too fast. I mean, there's guys, they were out there like almost like your state trooper globe, sitting there circling the field and, flashing everything around. And the problem is they were moving too fast and not slow enough. And that was a majority of our problems for that first year of coyote hunting. And then that second year we got into thermal scanners with night vision. And so with night vision rifle scopes. And then suddenly we started seeing way more coyotes and started shooting way more coyotes. And what that thermal scanner allows you to do is pick up any amount of heat anywhere in the field. So it's during the day, and even when you're deer hunting, you talk about nocturnal deer. You don't realize how nocturnal deer really are until you go out in the middle of a field at 12 o'clock at night and you see 100 deer that you might see at 10, by sunset. There's just some of these woodlots hold a tremendous number of deer that you would never know. And so being able to be out at night and see this completely different world has been pretty eye-opening, actually.
I bet. So getting into like the all-encompassing questions here, and I think you've got some pretty solid answers. The first one that we have for you is, what is the most important thing to being a successful predator, specifically coyote hunter?
So one of the things that, a lot of guys, after a year, they want to give up. They haven't called in a predator, and it's, I got very fortunate with my first hunt but it rarely happens that way. So ultimately my advice is just don't give up and just keep after it. Even knowing how to call in predators and everything. I had a dry spell this fall, for example. I did, I don't know, somewhere between 16 and 20 sets without seeing a single coyote. I'd hear them here and there, but it was a royal struggle. But they're coyotes. We are still hunting an animal, and it isn't easy. You just got to give it the time and keep working at it. And then if you know somebody local, that's willing to take you out, who has had success, they might be able to give you some pointers and get you going in the right direction.
How about a mistake, Chris? What's an easy mistake to make that a coyote hunter can fall into the trap of?
Again, going back to the wind, I'll tell you, it's amazing how many times, I'll preach it online so much about, the wind, but it is still probably one of the most common mistakes especially new coyote hunters, make every time they go out into the field, expecting a coyote to come out when the wind is blowing right where the coyotes are hanging out. That still is probably the number one biggest mistake, I would say, out there.
Well, now we get into the fun stuff. Now, Grant usually comes up with these would you rathers, but he was gone last week, so I got to come up with them. And I've changed them up a little bit, Chris. So the first one is going to be similar but different, and that is, would you rather shoot one coyote that is 45 pounds, and this is during 1 week of hunting, okay? One coyote, 45 pounds, or 8 coyotes at 25?
I will go with 8 at 25. The 45-pound one is a pretty rare one, and it actually exceeds anything that I've currently called in or seen taken. I think 2 43-pounders is the best I've seen so far that I've witnessed. And to hit 45 pounds, those buggers eat a lot. But I think still taking out some 25-pounders, that's more trigger time and a little more gunpowder smell in the air. But I would definitely go for the bigger number. That's for sure.
Okay, so my next one then is you have a weekend of night hunting. So you got both Saturday night and Sunday night, and you and your buddies get to go out, and you each have the same gun. Would you rather have a semi-automatic 22 mag or a single break barrel 6.5 Creedmoor?
Oh, goodness. I think that's a tough one. You made that one even harder on me.
Oh yeah, you can run whatever optic you want on them, but you either have a semi-auto 22 mag or a break action 6.5.
So how many rounds are in that 22 mag?
Standard restrictions.
I think with that one, I could almost make a point to go with the 22 mag. Now it's 22 Magnum. It's going to take a little bit more to put them down. But I think in the same token, your range, you could probably get that rifle zeroed pretty decent from 150 yards on in. And in the event that you do call in 2 or 3 coyotes, actually, to tell you the truth, I think in Michigan, you are, even if you went with a 22 rimfire, long rifle rimfire, I think you're allowed to have a 30-round mag. Don't quote me on it, but I believe you can. So if you had a 10-round mag for the 22 Magnum, then I think you'd be able to knock down 3 coyotes in a single stand pretty effectively. Now, with a break open Creedmoor, it's probably going to be one and done. You're not going to likely get another shell in there, get her loaded up, and be able to get a second round off before they leave the field.
Yep. So would it change if I would have asked you just a regular 22 long rifle? Does the 22 mag give it just enough oomph to make it worth the while?
It does. Yeah. Yep. The 22 mag gives it just enough oomph. If you would have said 22 long rifle, I would have went with the Creedmoor, because the 22 long rifle, if you can get them within 50 yards and you're putting it into the boiler room, I think you'd be okay. Or if you could head shoot them, But much further than that, there's just not enough oomph between with the 22 long rifle.
Right. So now the next one, and this one, would you rather hunt coyotes in November or in April?
So in April, the females are beginning to den and starting to have their litters of pups. So immediately right off the bat, you're losing a good portion. I wouldn't say a good portion of your coyote population, but you're losing some coyotes to the den. So yes, you can still call in some males, but you know what? The number of animals that are going to respond to the call are going to be fewer. And the fur is not very good in April, whereas in November, you're starting to reach that peak in the fur quality. And so if you're looking for that animal that's going to be more of a mounter quality or something, a fur to hang on the wall, or you just want to sell it, it's going to have some value in November versus April. There will be no value.
Gotcha. Now, how about a wolf or a mountain lion? One or the other?
So hopefully Michigan opens up a wolf season. Hopefully by the end of this year, that would be great. But I've got to say, a buddy of mine over in South Dakota, he just got a mountain lion a couple weeks ago, and just seeing those big animals, those big cats, it's just, there's something about it. So I've got to say mountain lion, even though the way they do it, I sit behind a desk, I could not get on a cat track and follow it for 7 miles through the mountains until I run into that cat. Those guys are a different breed of tough out there, and they can just go. And, but they've killed some absolutely amazing looking mountain lions over there. So, but mountain lion would definitely be on my list.
Well, the funny thing is, it's like here in the Midwest, we got like farm boy strong, and like out west, you got like that mountain fit. It's, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
It's kind of the same analogy, because around here you've got the guys that have worked all their life or born and raised on a farm, and they're just tough or strong.
They're just tough.
Yeah,
yes.
And there's guys in the gym that can outlift them, no doubt. But it's like same thing out in the mountains. I could be in decent shape, but I know a couple of friends out there that are just mountain fit, and they can just go.
They're used to the thinner air, the whole 9 yards. They can, even if in our best shape, we go out there, we'd still never be able to climb a mountain remotely as close as they can, not even close. And it's a different type of strong, but it's something else.
So the last one here has changed, and it's tough, I believe. So this is for the entire month of January, which is one of the coveted months of coyote hunting. You can either shoot 10 coyotes in one day or 10 coyotes during the entire month of January.
It goes to the thing, I would rather be able to spread out the success over the course of a month. You get it all in one night is great. That'd be a phenomenal number to get in one night, but to be able to go the rest of the month and not have a single trigger pull would be pretty rough. So if you split it up where you're getting 2 this weekend, 2 next weekend, 2 next weekend, I think that has a lot more to it. And I would definitely go for that versus 10 in a night.
Sure. That's a good answer. I'd pick that one too. I'd rather have the more trigger time, like you said, Chris.
You sit there and you spend all that time in the field, you go out there and you spend half the night out there. You would sure like to have a little reward of something that night,
Absolutely.
So to have all the reward in a single night over the course of a month, just makes it and the thing is, you would never know. You got 10 this night. Oh my goodness, I'm on a roll. I'm going to go out the next weekend. I'm going to get another 10 and another 10. Well, then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah, no kidding. But 10 is the ultimate power play in conversation. Like when you talk to a guy that wins a coyote tournament and it's a 1 day, like 24-hour tournament, how many coyotes you kill? 25. That's like a number that's like, whoa, Jesus. Like to me,
actually, I just seen a post here a day or two ago. I think it was yesterday, because there was a weekend tournament, and I don't know where it was taking place, but those guys over the course of 2 days, I think they killed 40.
Wow,
that's incredible.
Yeah, just an insane number.
So, go ahead.
It's crazy. No, it's just amazing that they could put down that many coyotes. That's how many that's so many in a night. How many are you getting in each single? in each stand. You couldn't go a stand without killing a coyote, essentially, to hit those kind of numbers.
Well, it's just so interesting. One of the guys that we spoke with, his name is Ozzie Clements, and he actually lives in kind of like central Illinois, and he's revered around here as one of the best just coyote hunters as far as tournaments goes. And he explains like a good 2-day tournament for them is like putting up 30 dogs. And they're just, he said the key is that they don't spend more than like 10 minutes on a set. He said they line up all their properties, and he's like, it is a workout, because he's like, we don't stop. He's like, we go hunt, immediately get in the next one, go again. He's like, we're eating on the road. He's like, it is like a full out push. But I mean, that's how they get it done.
We did a tournament last year, and it was just like that. I mean, we usually try to push, 15 minutes a stand when we're doing a tournament.
Yep.
But I mean, we had our best tournament yet, and we still only entered 4 dogs. So, we pushed hard. We had 2 stands where we got 2 doubles, and that was it. We had very few other sightings. We had a couple of communication problems where we had, a coyote at 100 yards, and we're like, okay, who's shooting it? Why isn't anybody shooting? And that coyote runs off and never has a bullet fired. So it's, it's just one of those things with tournament hunting. You got to all be on the same page.
Right.
And, but yeah, that's to put 30 down in a tournament, is pretty unheard of in Michigan. I think last year we had a couple of tournaments where guys turned in like 14, and that's about as good a number as you're ever going to hear in Michigan.
Man, that's crazy. That'll put it in perspective for you. So, to kind of close us out here, Chris, what's the best place to find you, whether it be on social, somewhere online that somebody could link up with you, kind of see your content, see what you do, and find you electronically over the airwaves? Where would that be?
So they could look me up on either Facebook or Instagram. Facebook, just look up Chris Kreiner, and I will be the profile. There's a few Chris Kreiners out there. I'll be the profile with the Coyotes all over the page. And then on Instagram, you can find me at Go Pursuits, and then also Dusk to Dawn Outdoors on Facebook, and my website at greatoutdoorpursuits.com.
All right. And then what about that Facebook group too? Because that sounds like something that I think those Facebook groups to me are really, really where the information's at. You said that you're a moderator on one. You want to list that again real quick?
Yeah. I'm a moderator with Michigan Coyote Hunting Outdoors.
All right.
And that's a page or a group that's Predator Hunter Outdoors. They're the administrators of the site and keep things flowing. I think we're at like 15,600 members, somewhere in that ballpark. And it, like I said, it's growing every day.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Well, again, Chris, thank you for taking some time. Really appreciate it. If there's anything you need from us, open book, reach out to us anytime. But again, I'll touch base with you here after we close this out. Again, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate your time.
All right, buddy. See ya.
Take care.
All right. Man, good dude.
Yeah.
And he kills a lot of coyotes.
A lot of coyotes.
So
a shocking amount of coyotes.
I'm really excited to launch this series because for me, the interesting factor, and I've kind of talked to some of these guys beforehand, is just to see the similarities and the differences, because all of them kill lots of dogs in their own respect.
Yeah, they've all hit the triple digits coyote kills by a lot.
Oh, yeah, they hit that every year. Mm-hmm. Chris, when I was talking to him privately, he goes out almost every weekend, and sometimes like 3 or 4 times a week. And it's not uncommon for him to shoot about 5 or 6 per week. And you think about, it's like, okay, so it's not that much, but it's like, okay, the guy hunts year round.
Yeah.
I mean, just take 5.
Yeah, it's not just like
10.
fair weather like January, February in the Midwest. Yeah.
I mean, so, and he's just really well spoken. He's been accredited by the state of Michigan as the best trapper or caller of 2020, and just real happy to have him on. But we're looking forward to the next episodes. If you like this one, you like what we got in the hopper, anything else you want to add before we close?
No, just hopefully these episodes give you a glimpse behind the glass curtain of how to kill more coyotes, more strategies, more techniques to use from a pro, from somebody who is, leaps and bounds in front of everyone else. So we're going to be really excited to launch these. And if you really liked Garrett's episode, like he said at the beginning of the podcast, we're going to be launching these back to back to back to back. So if you enjoyed this one, then come back tomorrow with our next guest, and we'll see if you can learn a couple more things about how to kill more coyotes this coming coyote season, or in years to come.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow. Don't waste it.